On day release, demon sub tries not to crease, and Demon's keeping nice and warm in bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening another can. Technical difficulties, they're really such a crime. Technical difficulties, they happen all the time. It's Yellow Belly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. Sometimes they're salty about the gaming biz, and nobody knows who Upworlder is.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. Might be a little bit shorter than normal tonight, because as everybody will see, and over there, I'm without my co-host, who's had a little bit of a family emergency. But these things are sent to try us. Solar live stream, yep. No plan B at this late hour. So as I say, we'll rattle through stuff, and it'll probably be a little bit shorter than normal. So good evening, welcome to the regular Thursday night hobby live stream. If you're new to us, to be fair, he's not even in the chat, so I imagine he's playing BattleTech. But evening, Trevor. So let's first of all, don't know, Pandy, is the honest answer, mate. At the moment, I've got problems of my own. Bloody vehicles playing me up. So I don't know at the moment what I'm doing at the moment day to day for a car. It's becoming a bit of a fucking pain. So another thing that's going to set me back for the year is now I've got to save up for a new car, because I can't be doing this, not living out where we live in rural fuck knows whereshire. So I've got to start seriously ploughing some savings into, getting some money together for a car, because I don't want to be saddled with a fucking loan and finance and all that shit. So, honestly, mate, do not know at the minute. Yeah. Uh, no, definitely. Which actually we'll talk about. Anyway, let's. Oh, Tim is in. Hello, Tim. Um. I don't. I don't know. Do you want me to send you a link, Tim, and you can jump in as co-host? Do you fancy that? Um. If you do, let me open up my Discord. If you do, just let me know. So yeah, first of all, it's a wedding day. Okay, that's fine, mate. That's super cool. You have good fun. When you say it's wedding day, do you mean anniversary? Is that how you Germans express yourselves? Um, yes, I thought that's what you meant, sir. Yeah, yeah, okay. Well, many happy returns for you and Mrs. Some Dude on YouTube. Right, let's shout out who's in for a start. So we've got Darren, also known as Demon Sub, who is actually doing some hobby tonight. Darren's been he's normally fairly avid with his hobby, but he's been doing a lot of Gundam recently, but he's actually painting. Now, you say you're painting a champion, Darren. I do hope that's for submission into the painting comp or painting event at the end of the month. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do as the theme is champion. I need to probably... I know Cookie David's got some ideas of what he's going to do, but I don't really know yet what to do. To be honest, it's a really broad brush, so I'm sure I can find something. We've got, because of Ben, Stroke Crispin. We have Cheese Me, good evening. We have Pandy, that's Paul from Pandyman. If you check them out online, the purveyor of Threat Level 0 and the very fine Trench Offensive miniature games. Who else have we got in? We've got Upworlder, that's Trevor from our local gaming club. Tim, some dude on YouTube, also known as Sundancer. Check out his live stream every Tuesday on Twitch. It's the unofficial hobby hangout, as we call it in the on-tabletop community. But yeah, good evening to each and every one of you, and to you as well. If you're watching along later on YouTube, welcome to the show. I'm not doing any hobby at the moment, but I do have these these eternal fucking barbed wire things that I may start working on if I can muster the motivation. I am supposed to be having a game of Bolt Action next week. If I can get to club yet again, don't know. So we'll see. So obviously, if I am playing Bolt Action, I want to try and get them done. I have a beer, so I hope we all have beers or beverage and refreshment of your choice. So tonight, what are we going to do? Well, we'll skip what we're hobbying on, because apparently Darren's the only one who's going to be productive. If I'm wrong, and you are doing something hobby related, whether that be painting, building terrain, whatever, put it in the comments. You know, it's always nice to know what people do while they're consuming our content, because obviously that's what drove us to start all this back in the day. Was it coming up for 3 years ago now, or has it gone 3 years? Must be more than 3 years ago now. I think we started in February. That was the idea, to give people a long form video that we can just sit and paint to and sort of like just have on in the background. The other items on tonight's agenda are, as usual, I'll tell you guys a little bit about what we did at Gaming Club Monday Gone, because that was good fun. That was such good fun. Then there's news. I think I've got one YouTube video to talk about, maybe another thing. There's not really been much going on that's captured my interest. But then again, both David and I are on a gap year with our hobby. By that I mean we are really, really trying not to get drawn into any new games or projects or anything that's aside from something we're already financially invested in. Because obviously anybody who does this hobby will know the trap is it's easy to spend money. It's very hard to turn that into a gaming experience. Our hobby is one that takes a lot of investment in terms of time and effort to produce a game. It's not like some aspects of tabletop hobby where you just crack open your board game and you pop out the tokens and you're playing within an hour. A lot of miniature war games require a lot more investment. So we already have spent a ton on stuff that we haven't enjoyed. So this year is going to be the year where we get stuff to the table and make the most of the value. And it's going great so far. We've not really bought anything new. And we've managed to get Moonstone. We've got at least two, I think we might have even got 3 games of that in. 2 or 3 games of Moonstone in. So we've sort of like opened the lid on that. We've got Fallout Wasteland Warfare and Wild West Exodus we want to get played this year, both of which we have stuff for but haven't, utilised. So after the brief chat about the news, we may as well just go right into the main topic. So it's going to be probably well before 9 o'clock. It always is. Certainly not from a rules point of view, Trevor. Everybody, I mean, yeah, okay. We talked about it enough on stream. Go back and check our previous streams. Spoilers, Moonstone didn't impress us from a rules point of view, which is my main stick. Yeah, it's got some interesting ideas in it. But I don't, not every game is for every player. My general feeling on it is it's as fiddly and fussy as Malifaux, but I didn't feel as I had enough control. And I'll tell you something else, that'll come out. We'll talk about that when we talk about Monday. So, then we'll get into the main topic. Now, the main topic was sort of like highlighted partially by what happened on Monday as well. But it's just one of them ones where I don't think it's not one of those topics where I have a definite opinion. I think it's one of them things where everybody's got their own opinion, and that it's one of them things that it is personal. I don't know how I'm trying to say it. It's one of them things that's a very individual opinion, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So Monday night, what did we do on Monday night? Let's have a look at here. So so Monday night at Gaming Club was our finale for the Red King campaign for Frostgrave. So those of you who've been watching for several weeks know that we've been playing through this over the last 8-10 months, maybe longer. It's a good long campaign. It's 12 episodes. We've been doing at least 1 episode a month. I think we managed to get 2 chapters or 2 episodes in 1 month because one of them was quite short. But yeah, it was the finale, the last big push. So in this scenario, there was myself, David, and Ricky from our gaming club. We've been this whole scenario campaign, whatever, the Red King, which was the first one that Joseph published when Frostgrave's second edition launched, is challenging. So fucking challenging. Oh mate, we got so much value out of this. So we've been playing it fully cooperative, and we went into this last scenario no different. So spoilers, if you don't want to hear the rest of this, then just put your fingers in your ears. La 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 la. The end of the campaign involves the warbands killing what are basically, imagine like from the Ghostbusters movie, you've got the gatekeeper of Zool and the keymaster of Zool. Imagine like that idea where you've got these 4 physical representations that are keeping the portal open to allow the Red King to enter Felstad, which is the frozen city that features in Frostgrave. In order to win the scenario, you need to kill all of these keymasters of the Red King, or whatever they're called, I can't remember. Now, they're not that difficult to kill. When you engage them, they just run away. They don't, if they ever fight you and get an opportunity, they just fight you and move randomly away. So then they're the opposite to the normal monster AI. They do run away from you. Now, when you get into combat, they were actually relatively simple to chew through, because they weren't that tough. The sort of like sting in the tail is that a preposterous amount of Hrut demon models spawn on the table at the start of the game. So at the start of the game, which is the photo you see here, you get all 3 warbands placed roughly in an 8-inch radius circle in the centre, and all 4 keymasters and 16 Hrut demons. Now bear in mind, these 16 demon models are spawned, even if this is a 2-player scenario, you still put out 16 NPC demon models. And at the end of every turn, without fail, more will appear. Anytime, any number between 2 and 5 will appear as well. This was brutal, because obviously, now the other sting in the tail is this: when all of the gatekeepers or keymasters or whatever the name of in the scenario is are dead, the portal to Felstad collapses and the Red King is stopped. But obviously, you're then trapped in the realm of the Red King. So your warband is effectively lost forever. So, bearing in mind you've just played through a year's worth of Frostgrave and upgraded your warband and gained all these cool magical items, essentially, at the end of it, if you can't get out before you kill the keymasters, which I'll talk about in a minute, you lose it all. But you did save Felstad. So, and you're now asking yourselves, well, how do you win? So how do you escape but still win? Basically, instead of attacking these keymasters, any model that's in base contact can transport themselves through the portal. Okay? So that's a good shout, Darren. You can always move on to play Rain in Hell. That's a very good shout. So instead of attacking the gatekeeper, keymaster, whatever, you can choose to use him as a teleport to take you home to Felstadt. So we had a conflab and we were like, okay, so what we need to do is get our wizards and apprentices out and then hope that the grunts can finish the job off. Because, again, if you end the scenario, so all you guys are dead or whatever, and you have not destroyed all 4 keymasters, whatever, Frostgrave is lost. Felstadt is destroyed. The world ends. No more Frostgrave exists. So, how did it go for us? Well, we basically just said, screw the treasure, screw the chests. It's far too much hassle to try and get them off the board. Because again, you've got to teleport them through the keymasters. What we did was dogpiled the keymasters, killed 3 as quickly as we could, and then thank God Ricky brought the Bones of the Earth spell, which was able to pin the keymaster in place and stop him moving around, so that the rest of us could get our wizards out, and then we just left the grunts to finish the job and crossed our fingers. And literally everybody was wiped out. So all 3 wizards escaped. No, I lie. I escaped. Ricky's wizard escaped. David's wizard got punked and killed in the Red King's realm. And literally all of our warband members got killed. I had 2 guys left engaging the last keymaster, and it was literally my last guy had 1 roll to take, I think it was 3 health off him, or he was going to get completely blitzed in the monster phase by endless demon attacks. And we did it with that 1 roll, and it was the most amazing cinematic end to the whole campaign. You could not have hoped or wished for anything more dramatic or entertaining to have happened. It was really, really good. So obviously I have the option of bringing my wizard back. Ricky has the option of bringing his wizard back. Obviously the warbands are zeroed, so we have to build from the ground up with scrubs and freebies, and whatever we can afford to buy. But that option is open to us. David's warband was destroyed, but that's fine because he's building a new one for the next campaign anyway. It was absolutely amazing, Darren. Now, there's... what was I going to say? We're saying about how good the ending was. The reason... I was going to say something else. I can't remember. It's gone. Hate doing these things solo. We were going to... The thing that fed into tonight's main topic was Joseph's odd decision to make the outcome of this scenario so binary, in that if you win, that's fine. Obviously, it's difficult, but you can do it. But if you lose, the world of Frostgrave is destroyed. And it's like, it's this question of immersion. I mean, it's a dramatic end to a story arc. I'll give you that. See it 1,000 times in films and books and whatever. But in a war game, if we'd have finished this and everything was dead and Felstad was destroyed, isn't that a little bit immersion breaking next time we go to play Frostgrave? And we were talking about it, and whether it was a good idea to make the what's the word, the actual consequences quite so severe, whether that was a good thing or not, and hence our sort of like feeding into our story. So I don't. Again, this is where it gets interesting, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. For me, I think that, I mean, that's, again, so like, well, cheese me. The problem that the thing that the feeling I had was like, and maybe I'm overthinking it. Feel free to shout at me and say, you're thinking about it too much, mate. But it's like, if Felstad is destroyed, then when we next go to play Frostgrave, we have to say, even if it's only in our own head canon, oh well, this of course predates the events of the Red King, blah blah blah. Darren, that's exactly what I would have thought. Darren, I would have liked, okay, you lose, the Red King enters the realm of Felstad, and then blah blah blah. Like, you add Hrut to each of the monster tables, or you have a rule that says whenever you roll for wandering monsters, if you roll a 1, then instead of spawning monsters, you spawn D4 Hrut or whatever. Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, and it came back from the dead. I mean, and again, Cheeseme's making some valid points here in that, obviously, when you play historicals, the narrative is already determined, but we'll come to that when we talk about the main topic. Now, I have one other thing to say here about this, and about how it applies to Frostgrave in general, which is, I unfortunately lost my warband roster after our game in February. I still haven't found it. It must be in the house somewhere, but I can't find it. So what I said to the lads was, well, I can remember my guy was destroyed. I'll just build a level 1 warband. I remember I had a crossbowman specialist and a man-at-arms, and everything else I'll just put as a scrub. And I'll just roll with it, because I thought, it doesn't matter, it's the last game, it's going to be as hard as hell anyway. And you know what? It didn't really make that much difference. I mean, I was level 18 or something like that, somewhere between 15 and 20, and I just subbed out level 1, no apprentice, and it didn't matter, because ultimately Frostgrave is that random. things like multiple models ganging up on one, and just the pure randomness of a D20 make more difference to your game than all of the upgrades for 20 levels of play. And you can say that that's a good thing, or it could be a bad thing. I'm just going to say it is what it is. But there definitely is an argument to say that this isn't a gritty, technical game by any means. It's a dice chucking rando fest, which, if you're lucky, gives you some fantastic cinematic moments. Like the moment when one of Ricky's random archers was literally charged and attacked by, I think, 5 different Hrut demons in the same monster phase, and he literally spiked the D20 and chopped every single one down, one after the other, in the most preposterous and unfeasible fashion that was hilarious. So yeah, ultimately, great fun was had by all, and it just cements for me that Frostgrave is a great game system. You know, as long as you appreciate what you're in for, you can't really go wrong with Frostgrave. It's absolutely cracking as a system, and we're really looking forward to the next campaign, which will be the Wildwoods scenario. So, right, let's just have a look here. Let's do this.
It's the part of the show that we have come to know as the latest salty blizzard of nerdy sorrow. More news than you can shake the salt at. More news than you can shake the salt at.
Right, yet again, bloody adverts. Go away! So, news. There's a couple of things. First of all, I'm really enjoying, this is Matt from Mini Wargaming. What the hell's his surname? Matt Glanfield. He's doing a series of videos very focused around game design. You guys know me, this is something that's very close to my heart, which reminds me I need to finish Mike Hutchinson and Glenn Ford's book so that we can come to you with a review of that. But this is a topic that we discussed much on stream. Matt does a great does a great job of discussing it here as well. It echoes a lot of the thoughts that we've said on evening, Chris. Demon says, I watched this. He's done some They are really interesting for me. I get they're probably not everybody's cup of tea, but as a real how do things work under the bonnet guy, I love these sort of videos. And he comes really to the same conclusion as, which is that you have to have some degree of balance in a game for it to be... For ultimately, without balance, you don't feel like you've got any player agency. And if you haven't got player agency, it's a frustrating experience playing a game. If it's a bit like what I've just said about Frostgrave, right? Frostgrave walks a very fine line, because ultimately if you feel like it doesn't matter what I do here, I've just got to roll this d20 and see what happens, you don't necessarily feel like you're in charge and have any control over the game. And balance can have the same effect. If any element of your game is wildly out of kilter, then unless you can offset or restore the balance in some way. So thinking about what happens in a lot of historical war game scenarios, you'll get situations where Age of Sigmar First Edition is a great example, because there was, apart from goodwill and common sense amongst the players, there was no other balancing mechanism. Obviously, very quickly people started to use wound count in the absence of points. And it's a good crude measure, but it just illustrated the point that most players want to look at a game system and think that somebody's tried to add balance somewhere. Anyway, what I was going to say about historical scenarios. What happens commonly in historical war games, you'll have one side is outnumbered by the other 2 or even 3 or more times to 1. And this is not an uncommon event in real historical battles. Very rarely were forces evenly matched. What happens in the real world scenarios is that where there's this massive disparity in troops, the generals have to use their wile and their skill to manipulate things like terrain and tactical advantage to offset the discrepancy. So, which is why you get scenarios where 2 or 3 times outnumbered forces were ultimately victorious, either because they could take the losses and hold the morale, they had to a simple objective to keep, such as just don't be destroyed. As long as they weren't destroyed, they could be reinforced and hold the enemy from the ground, which was all that was required. And that can be done in any war game, even a make-believe fantasy war game. It doesn't have to be the points are balanced with the armies, as long as there's some other balancing effect. So you structure the scenario so the win condition is easier for the outnumbered guy, or you place the terrain and create scenario rules where the defenders are all bunkered or protected so that they can sustain fewer losses. There's a ton of mechanisms to create balance, and you need to utilise them to make war games entertaining in some way. But obsessing about it is a trap that makes your war game unstable, because it changes continually in response to things like, data gathering on tournaments and metas and this sort of thing. It's a bit of the situation that modern 40k's got itself into. Since 8th, 9th edition, the whole purpose of Games Workshop's design brief has focused around competitive play, and it means that for casual gamers like me, 40k is way too much of an ask now for me to stay with, because literally if I only play twice a year, every time I play, my rules might have changed, my points might have changed, my army might not be legal, and it's too much. There's too much effort required for a casual player like me. And I don't mean casual as I mean I'm a casual wargamer, but I'm casual with 40k. I can't do it. It's asking too much of my time and effort to get the enjoyment out of it. And as I say, Matt covers all of this brilliantly. Great video. He discusses a lot of this stuff. It's worth a watch, and like a lot of Matt's videos, not overly long. Darren says that's when the scenario comes to play to make the game balance. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be points costs that balance things. There are a number of things that can be put into play. I mean, one thing that I've always thought would be a good idea is to have like a handicap system. I'm not quite sure how you would implement it globally in a rule set. Maybe I should try and design something. But certainly in a gaming club, right? If you've got 5 or 6 mates that you war game with regularly, my guess is there's probably 1 or 2 that are just actually better at games than the others. They might be able to compute probabilities on dice pools faster in their head. They know when something's a disadvantageous move, so they're like, I could attack that model, but I've only got like a 20% chance of getting that attack off, so no, I'm going to do this instead. And the brutal truth is they just become better gamers. So actually having a system where you say like, okay, well, if you continually win in this scenario, you build up a handicap versus perhaps a weaker player. So then you can offset that and bring balance to your game based on the player, not the actual table environment. That's something I don't know if any of you guys has anybody in chat ever come across that in a game system? I can imagine it's bloody difficult, but I'd be interested to see if anyone's tackled it in some way. Yeah, Darren, you're dead right, Darren. Ultimately, GMs are a good idea. Certainly when scenarios are convoluted. Or there might be things like hidden movement, hidden deployment. An impartial third player can be very useful in that regard. But ultimately, it's got to be fun. But that is one of the functions of balance. Balance is there to bring an element of fun, and it brings that by everybody feeling, I've got a chance, there's a point. Whereas feeling that you've lost before you've started is not fun for anybody. Unless in the rarest of occasions, I suppose you could end up with a scenario where somebody literally just doesn't care. They know they've lost before they've started. They just want the experience. And I guess that does happen. You know, when you're enjoying a game with friends, there are times when you really don't care what the outcome of the game is. You just want to, enjoy your friends' company. But generally, I think it does have a role to play. Now then, everybody who's been watching a while knows that David and I are both huge fans of Call of Cthulhu. Particularly the Fantasy Flight, what's called the Arkham Files universe. David, Mr. Ones and Zeros, has been all in on this Loot Studios. Oh, that's not the correct button to press, Paul. All in on this Loot Studios stuff. So Loot Studios have done a series of releases where they've given you digital STLs for various creatures and monsters and player characters that are defined in the Fantasy Flight Arkham Files universe. I think this is largely to tie in with the role-playing game that was released by a third party. Can't remember the name of the company, but basically somebody's released a role-playing game that sits in Fantasy Flight's iteration of the Cthulhu Files, the Arkham Files universe. And this is due for a new release anytime soon. David's been getting the teasers because I think he's enrolled in their Patreon or whatever scheme Loot Studios have. So he's been getting little teasers. This release looks like, I think it's the fourth wave of miniatures. Looks like it's going to be focused around... yeah, he looks just like he does in real life, doesn't he? Evening, Toros. So this fourth wave, I think, is focused around Cthulhu, the eponymous great old one of the Call of Cthulhu mythos, Cthulhu mythos, and this is because I'm fairly sure of this. This is me spitballing, but I'll be shocked if I'm wrong. The Fantasy Flight themselves have released the latest edition of their Arkham Horror Living card game supplement. So this latest story box and investigator pack is focused on, I believe, Arkham, or it could be what the hell's the name of the city that's on the coast? that gets flooded. I think this is Arkham though. Arkham essentially gets flooded. It's called Drowned City, and the ultimate bad guy is Cthulhu. I should have this in my sweaty mitts, hopefully next week? Question mark. I think it's due for a release at the end of March here in the UK. I think it's already started. I know some people in the Spanish-speaking countries have already had their Spanish editions, because I've seen spoilers online. And a lot of content creators in the US have already received in the US and Canada, have received their English printing. And I hope I'll be having some soon. But this, as I say, is... I'm sure these two are linked. It makes sense for Loot Studios to release something at the same time as this, just to tie in. And that's pretty much it for news, to be honest. I know there was a big... Toros and the others guys here from On Tabletop, they might have seen there was a big Baron's War release. A Scooby-Doo skin coming out for Arkham Horror. In what incarnation, Toros? There is a game called Betrayal at House on the Hill, which has got sort of a Cthulhu theme. It's basically a horror-themed storytelling board game. That already has a Scooby-Doo version, which I think went down very well. I don't know if it's still in print. Okay, fair enough. To be fair, I don't know if anyone has done it, but somebody should just do a fucking... I suppose the problem is licensing, isn't it? You should... I don't know. Do Crooked Dice do Scooby-Doo counts as? If not, why not? They should do. That would be bloody fun. So yeah, that is pretty much it in terms of the news. There's, as I say, I know Baron's War had a massive second edition release. That's been all over everywhere, including YouTube. I deliberately have not looked at that, simply because I am conscious of sticking to my resolution to not get into a new game. And given how popular the first edition was, there's a definite possibility that it's going to be good enough that I'm going to get into it. I managed to resist TT Combat's Battlezone Commander and Strike Team Commander. David and I talked about it so much at length. But ultimately, with those Kickstarters, TT Combat will always bring stuff to retail. If we want to get into it later, it's not going anywhere. Any of the Kickstarter exclusives don't attract us that much. And even though I would have liked to drop 200 or 300 quid just on the Chroma terrain, I just balked at it in the end, and I just fingers crossed that it comes. Surely there must be an Arkham Horror Monopoly, Toros. Surely. Quick, get on eBay. There must be one. To be fair, I've had loads of versions of Monopoly. The problem with Monopoly is Monopoly versions sound really great, and then you play them and you realise they're just Monopoly, and Monopoly is shit. So, like, I've got the Metallica one, and I've got the Game of Thrones one, and it's just Monopoly, which is just a shit game. That's the problem. There are so many good Arkham or Cthulhu themed board games. Don't buy Arkham Horror Monopoly, even if it exists. Just don't buy it. Buy Cthulhu Death May Die or fucking. I know, and do you know what's scary? Not playing the proper rules of Monopoly makes the game longer and worse. At least if you play the proper rules, it's normally over quite quickly. Yeah, I played it mostly when I was a kid. I've tried to play it twice as an adult, and I get frustrated with people who are like, you know, not paying the proper rules, because you just like auction everything off. Every time something gets landed on, auction it off. Let's get somebody to get some traction and finish this game quick. It's like, oh no, we want to keep playing all day. No, you don't. He had a personal crisis, Crispin. He did pop in the chat earlier. But yeah, he had a personal thing come up, so he had to bail literally last minute. So that's to see what I mean, Taros. It's like fucking Monopoly has got like a rule book about yay big with 4 pages, and it's like nobody plays it. It's like, fucking hell, what? Can you not digest that? The dude that came to Atlantic City. Oh my god. I don't even know if you're joking, Chris, but oh my Christ. No, I'm out. I'm out. I don't think it's anything mega. Obviously, I'll be honest, mate, literally I don't have any details at the moment. He literally just phoned me and said, I'm gonna have to bail, got to do the stuff. He'll no doubt fill me in later. Yeah, we obviously, you know, we'll hopefully he'll be back on form, and there was no mega drama. But you guys will find out soon enough as regulars to the show. Anyway, I'm going to fill my pipe and have a sip of my beer. And you guys can tell me your opinion on our main topic. So as I said earlier, we really enjoyed the whole Red King campaign that we played with Frostgrave. But the end of the story was absolutely binary. You win and like everything's fine, or the world ends and Felstad is destroyed. We were talking after the game, and David and I were talking about this whole concept of, with miniature war games, you have to have it's Condor, sir. I find Golden Virginia a little bit it's not strong enough for me. I've been smoking a pipe for a good while now, and I like quite a strongly flavoured tobacco. When I first started smoking a pipe, it was like I remembered the strong smell of the tobacco from when my dad did it. The two popular ones in the UK are St Bruno and Golden Virginia, and they're a bit weak. As I say, I'm a Condor sort of guy, which is what I've got here. Anyway, we were talking about this whole miniature war games have to have some sort of that Condor moment. I'm just about to have one, actually. Anyway, I'm from the 70s. That is my time. Well, I guess I was born in the 70s, so late 70s, 80s is my time. So yeah, miniature war games need something to engage you with the story, with the world, with your forces, your army. And because without it, your games become very abstract. So let's take the war game that's not a war game that everybody always mentions in these conversations, chess. Okay? Chess is what we would call in the board game sector an abstract game, in that there's no story, there's no narrative. It's a sterile black and white environment where you're moving pieces around, like Go, like drafts or checkers, depending on your flavour. Or a topic. What has a hazelnut in every bite? Squirrel shit. So a game like that is completely abstract. It has there's no relationship to any of it other than the pieces form a puzzle that you will solve. God almighty, I barely remember Texans. Didn't they have horrible cheesy cowboy adverts on TV? I can't even remember what the bar was like. You'll have to tell us, what the hell was a Texan bar, Taurus? And obviously, we then started thinking about, because my issue, and this is why it relates to the topic, my issue with the Frostgrave scenario we played was this. I engage with Frostgrave because of the story of Felstad, the concept of the city locked in an ice age created by wizards who did something daft, and then it's thawing, and all the magical treasures are becoming uncovered by the receding glaciers. And the problem I had was, so I play this scenario, and the game tells me, if you fail this scenario, this whole world that you've come to love is gone. It's just destroyed. Puff of smoke, planet-sized collapse, singularity event, all gone. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that, because I really love this world, and I love my place in it, and I love the fact that I'm in it, telling a story about my guys, and you've really made it. You've gone too far now. You've taken the story to a place I don't want it to go. And we started talking about other examples of this. Another example that I thought of was 40k. I've played 40k since Rogue Trader. I'll be honest, Toros, the first thing I said to David was, as I was reading out the last sort of paragraph in the epilogue of the book, and it sort of says, if you won, blah, 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 blah. If you failed, then and I said to David, he should have put here, and if you failed to save Felstad, it is merely, you need to wait for the talent of the chronomancers to send some more heroic warbands back in time to rewrite the history, sort of thing. And I thought, you could have tied it in to the flavour. And like Darren said, just say, okay, well, it's not an apocalypse. The Red King has entered Felstad, and because the Red King is in Felstad, we have these new rules. Whenever you roll a 1 for initiative, something happens. You get, again, whenever any player rolls 1 for initiative, do a reality cracked event from the Red King table in your other game of Frostgrave, and let the reality bleed together. Or like we said before, when you're rolling for random monsters, when you pick up a chest, if you get a 1, you don't roll on the Wandering Monster table. You just roll a number of Hrut demons from the Red King, and one of his sort of like war parties turns up. There are loads of cool things Joseph could have done. Now, I said to David, we had a big long conversation about this that was really, as you can imagine, very nerdy and quite tedious to the ill-informed. But I said, in defense of what Joseph did, Joseph has always said he does not want to create a situation where his player base feels like they have to buy one book and then another book and have all of the supplements together. So I think Hiya, Marty. I've seen your comments on it. I'm assuming you've been commenting on our videos, mate. Very welcome to see you and I hope you enjoy tonight's stream, solo though it is. Joseph has gone on record and said that he doesn't want to create a situation where a player has to have this book and then this book and then... So I can totally see why he said, no, this is its own thing. That's it. Don't... Because again, he never, with any of his supplement books, says... like when you've completed this scenario, this campaign, you can then use these magic tables in place of the regular magic item tables in the Frostgrave book. Or he never does anything like that. Everything is very much like, this thing is its thing. Play with it, enjoy it, or don't. But he doesn't try to tie things together. And I think... I don't know, because I've never spoken to the guy, which is a shame, because I'd love to. I think it's deliberate. I think that Joseph wants to keep his supplements self-contained. Yeah, I agree. Toros says the ending you read out sounds like, okay, time for a new story. And that's exactly what it is. It's Joseph's... Here's your meal. You've eaten it. You're done. Move on. Move on with your life. Both Joseph and Ivan of 5 Parsecs have commented in the past that you play how you want and they won't be coming to your house to take you to... Again, yeah. Totally... But again, Joseph is great in that his products are so simple that once you've got a few years of wargaming experience, you can just homebrew the shit out of stuff. I'll tell you what, here's another... We're getting a bit off topic, but let's get into the Frostgrave weeds a bit more. Another thing that I will say in defence of Joseph's approach. Let's say, for example, that he created a formal rule where if you roll a 20 on your fucking treasure roll, you can pick the supplement you roll from, blah, fucking blah, fucking blah. Because he hasn't done that, if you want some of the cool items from the Red King, do you know what? Just go and play it again. Just revisit it. And... to be honest, there's that much cool stuff buried in Joseph's books. I'd be happy, because the other thing is, I've done all the hard work. I have the miniature collection. I have the terrain collection. To rerun the Red King is just time. If I ever have a warband that I want to put through it, I can just do it. Just press go, and as long as I've got the time to give it, it can give back to me, and I have no maybe I think 99%'s a bit generous, but no, I think most good designers do that. I mean, ultimately, whether they say it formally or not, any war game is yours. Unless you're playing in a formal play environment where somebody else does have the whip hand over you, just do your own fucking thing. Yeah, it is, and it tends to be isolated, Taros, to the tournament environment. But let's come back to 40k and the conversation. So one of the things with 40k is, back in the day, in the 80s, when Rogue Trader was released, there was a lot of... And Warren called this... I don't know if it's Warren's phrase, but it's awesome. Warren from On Tabletop, Beasts of War that was, calls it gaming in the gaps. Effectively, they created the idea of the 40k universe, an eternal war, 40,000 years in the future... Everything's always fighting everything else. It's all a bit grim and shit. Nobody would want to live there in their right mind. But there was plenty of holes in it. You know, it's like there are these things called Space Marines, but there's thousands of chapters of Space Marines, all with their own unique iconography. You can just create your own. Off you go. There are loads of different craft worlds of Eldar, all with their unique iconography and flavour. You can just create your own. Off you go. And then over 30 years, they slowly filled all the holes in. They created endless named characters, novels, campaign books, story arcs. They drew star maps of the galaxy. They placed things physically in time and space. They linked all of the characters together by threads of narrative. And I preferred the older environment, which is more like the Frostgrave one. Because again, Frostgrave tells you some things. You know that Felstadt is a city that used to be run primarily by wizards. Think Glantry from the old Mystara D&D setting. So it was a place steeped in magic. It became locked in ice for X thousand years. Now it's been freed because of the glaciers receding or the ice age ending, whether naturally or magically or whatever. But there's plenty of vagueness. It doesn't describe any of the races that lived in Felstadt. So if you want to create an orc warband, create an orc warband. Nobody's discussed whether orcs exist in Felstadt or not. Did they have dwarves? Don't know. Create a dwarf wizard warband. Nobody, do it. It's full of holes. It's full of holes for you to fill in with your own little narrative elements and stories. I preferred that, and I preferred that aspect of 40k in its more native form. But I'm willing to admit that there's nothing actually wrong with the new version of 40k. Malifaux is another game that's done this. Malifaux has moved its storyline and timeline along several times with its editions and even inside of editions. And as the story moves on, masters, main characters, have been killed. And they've been moved to like a Legends or Legacy status where you can play those masters, but obviously they're not in the current environment of Malifaux as we see it. And whether they've done that because they were broken and hard to balance, or they were clunky and weren't very good, whether they've done that for game design reasons or just for narrative shits and giggles, doesn't matter. The fact is they have moved things on, and they've done the Frostgrave, they've done the apocalyptic, he's dead. And sort of the players can take or leave that, I guess. But they've done it. They've set it. Darren says, yeah, reading Rogue Trader and some of the early GW fiction makes 40k seem vast and anything can happen with endless creativity and exploration. Yeah, but again, Darren, you have to admit the problem that Games Workshop ran into. And this is what I mean about there's no right and wrong with this. I probably would have played 40k for 40 years with no real advancement of the story. I didn't need the fall of Cadia. I didn't need the fucking galactic rift or whatever the shit it's called. I didn't need any of that. I was enjoying 40k in the moment. But there were a lot of players who weren't. There were a lot of players who got bored. Wanted things to change, wanted new stuff to be coming out, wanted the sort of like the timeline to move on, if you want. So this is the thing with this thing. I don't think it's a right and a wrong. I think it's an individual choice. Toros, me and my mates kind of sort of invented Space Hulk using Road Trader Judge Dredd floor plans to go search and destroy abandoned space. That sounds absolutely as cool as fuck. Toros, that sounds amazing. I mean, again, I loved Space Hulk when they released all the supplementary material and you could use regular Eldar and regular Imperial Guard, and it was all, they had rules for loads of extra shit. It was because it took what was a simple board game environment and just added enough for it to feel more fulfilling, more satisfying. But I mean, again, I think it was Cheese Me right at the beginning when I was sort of teasing the main discussion. He Cheese Me straight away threw in, yeah, but what about the Napoleonic Wars? What about, because all the Games Workshop have done with their 40k lore is done what is common to historical war games. If you want to play a historical war game in any period that's probably post-medieval at least, there's a ton of historical evidence to draw upon. A lot of stuff we know about the big movers and the big shakers and the big battles and what happened and why it happened. There isn't any really unknowns, and the more modern you get, the worse it is. Like, you know, if you want, World War II is obviously a massive historical section of wargaming, but if you want fucking casualty lists and of just about every engagement in World War II, you can find that shit somewhere. And there'll even be two versions, the winner and the losers. So then you can have sort of like an argument about which is more accurate. You know, that doesn't make that less fun. Do you know what I mean? It just makes it something different. Because the other thing is, you don't have to obsess about the detail to that degree. Toro says, players just need to find their own curler of the world galaxies. RPGs like Traveller are great for this. Yes, mate. And to be honest with you, that's one of the advantages that you have with science fiction style games, that you generally start with a broader canvas. I mean, one of the biggest fudges, because again, just before we move on, Pandy says with historical you can make it more generic skirmishes. Yeah, I mean, you can do that with World War II. I mean, you know, if you want to play like a small scale World War II game, is like Chain of Command's relatively small scale, isn't it? Just a few units against each other. That can just be some undocumented skirmish outside of some anonymous European village in any year between 41 and 44. Do you know what I mean? There's always the option for you, the player, to be as obsessive as you want about the story that you want to tell. I mean, I've really enjoyed looking through my Pacific campaign book, the Marianas and Peleliu campaign, I think it is, for Bolt Action. And again, they've taken real historical battles on the islands of the Pacific that the Americans took from the Japanese, but then to create war game scenarios, pardon me, everything's abstracted just enough. Do you know what I mean? So like troop ratio is 2-to-1. You'll want a road that runs towards the centre of the battlefield. You'll want a couple of hills on this side to represent that ridge. Toros says 3 versions: winners, losers, and Wikipedia. Yeah, fucking that's true. Yes, good old Wikipedia. Oh, God bless. Community maintained information sources, the ultimate in reliability. So, as I say, I think it's a taste thing. I like a wargame system because, again, in the thumbnail, I was trying to think, well, what's the barest wargame system I own? And I think it's Oathmark. Oathmark by Joseph essentially tells you it has factions in it, and it has troop types for those factions, but you don't have like a world map and a world spanning narrative. You literally generate your kingdom, and you can do it either randomly or by design, and then you generate units from the fiefdoms or territories that you hold and use that to build your army, which is the campaign mode. But the whole thing's about as blank as you can make it without it being utterly sterile. And to be fair, the more war games I've played, that balance is really quite difficult. And I think every designer that manages to get over the line of engaging but not overwhelming, but is definitely engaging and not sterile and empty, is do you know what? In a way, that's harder than the rules. I think actually designing your war game so that it gets that element of the design right, I think that's probably harder than good rules at this point. Because for good rule systems and good mechanics, you can just plagiarize and steal because they're not copyrightable. Do you know what I mean? It's like game mechanics can't be copyrighted, so just steal the good shit. Toro says, but couldn't you set it in, say, the very south of Middle-earth, for example? What are you saying? Like, oh, what with Oathmark? Christ, yes. I mean, that again, that's a brilliant idea. You know, I mean, I can imagine going full Tolkien nerd and saying, okay, well, I'm going to base my faction on the hills of Arnor Vale, and I'm going to have the dwarves. I'm going to have some dwarf clans. I'm going to have some Dunlendings. I'm going to have some men. Do you know what I mean? And I can, Darren. Yeah, I think you could definitely do that with Oathmark, but that's why it's such a good system. It's, do you know what? There's enough there to make it a package worth your attention, but it's not overwhelming. But by the same token, I don't think that anybody who says that they prefer, because again, we had a guy called Jack who played Frostgrave at our club to try it, because that's what you do, you try things, and he didn't like it. And he's a Games Workshop 40k man primarily, and no shade on Jack, it just didn't appeal to him. And I think it was a combination of the somewhat random rules mechanics, which didn't give him that feeling of real hands-on control. Plus, he likes 40k the way it is. He likes listening to all the fucking audiobooks telling him about the bloody whatever the gold Custodes heroes that he could have that real male power fantasy with. That's what he likes, and that's fine. Do you know what I mean? That's great. I prefer designing and sculpting and moulding my own heroes and who have their own motivations. But I've been doing this a long time, and again, I've been role playing a lot. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since before I started. It was miniature wargaming. I started playing D&D when I was 11. Whenever the red box basic set was released, was that late? I might even have been younger. I was 11 because I was at grammar school. So I would have been 11. I think it was, I would be 11. So that would be 82, 81, 82, 81. So I was doing that for like 5 years before I did any bloody miniatures. And that probably explains why I prefer the more open scaffolded approach with some space to create your own expression. What do you guys in the chat think? Do you have a preference? Do you prefer do you prefer everything to be... Do you get more engaged when everything is set out for you? Or do you get more engaged by a game when it gives you the freedom to breathe and create your own space? No, I haven't, mate. I haven't mentioned Hobgoblin yet. Hobgoblin is an early burn for David and me. I bought him the full version for Christmas. Or was it his birthday? His birthday in the end, because it came too late for Christmas. I bought him the full version of the Hobgoblin rules for his birthday. And Hobgoblin, I haven't read the full rulebook yet. He's lent me it to cast my eye over. But Hobgoblin is probably one step on from Oathmark. It's sort of similar to Frostgrave, because the canvas isn't completely blank. You know that there was an apocalypse. It drove everybody underground so that everybody lives in this weird warren of tunnels and caverns under the earth. Some races are described, but it's far from exhaustive and complete. And importantly, you're free to design your miniatures and your armies any way you like. Midgard is another one of these very open systems, isn't it, Toros? Midgard's probably closer to Hobgoblin, where you literally just create your own unit profiles, and it's more of a content management system version of a bloody war game. It's funny actually, because again, when you say that, we had a long chat with the guy who designed it at Partisan last year. Can't remember if it was the first or the second one. I think it was the second one, the one that's not Hammerhead, the later year one. And he was he basically did a little we did a show report, and there's an interview with him there, and he explains about the system and how open it is. But when you think about it, it's like Hobgoblin Oathmark doesn't really do anything to define the play environment, but what it does tell you is how the troops work on the table. Hobgoblin does a little bit to define the environment you should be playing in and the world that Hobgoblin sits in more sharply, but really doesn't give you any lead on what you should be putting on the table. So that they've got a real, yin-yang dichotomy going on. They're similar in some respects and very different in others. But like I say, I think for me, I'm, as the thumbnail says, if you want me to engage in your war game, I do want something. Because again, Age of Sigmar, right? Here's the thing, right? And this is how weird it can be. So Midgard gives you example lists. Cool. I haven't read that one, Toros. I'm deliberately not getting into it because this is the year where we don't get into rule systems. Although I do love the idea that your victory points, which go in your chalice, are a resource that you can spend for battlefield effects. But obviously spending them takes you further from victory because you're spending the things that will end with you winning the game. That is fucking genius. I don't know if he nicked that from somewhere, but I wish I'd... When you know, sometimes you see game mechanics and you just think, bastard. Absolute bastard. Of course it is, Paul. No religion. What do you mean? The genius thing. Absolute genius. No. Well, not in 2025. To be fair, the thing is that you know me, Toros. It's just for that mechanic. I'm like, fuck. I want to play this game. I love things like that. That's what, to be fair, that's what made, and again, I'm not being super critical of TT Combat. One of the things that made it so easy to say no to Strike Team Commander and Battlezone Commander was there wasn't anything like that. There wasn't anything, not one thing I could see from the demo games and the example rules that made me go, that's clever. That is clever. Because basically what you'd got was a reimagining of the Drop Zone Commander system. D6 plus energy beats armor. It's like, okay, yeah, well, we've done this. What in Midgard? Don't make it worse, mate, you bastard. Yeah, again, elegant rules. Yeah, stop. Just, Taros, just stop. I don't want to get into another game. Well, I do, but I don't want to do it now. God damn it. Although I do like the idea that I can buy just the rulebook and then just say, okay, I'm just going to stat up my Tzeentch demons from fucking Fantasy Battle and play it as Midgard instead. You never know, I might get it for a birthday present. Then I've got a get out of jail free card. We'll have to see what happens. Let's come back to let me say my Age of Sigmar thing, right? Okay. I bought Age of Sigmar first edition when it came out. I was into Fantasy Battles and I wanted to give Games Workshop a chance. I wasn't one of the dicks who were like, oh, fucking hell, you've taken away my best game. Oh, I'm going to burn all my armies. Oh. I didn't want to do that. So I thought, I'll be fair. I did quite like the aesthetic of the Sigmarines in their chunky armour. So I bought the starter set. But I tell you what really pissed me off. You know how, I think it was, I can't remember who said it, but we were saying about when you've got a science fiction game, you can create your own corner of the galaxy and make your own sort of like story within it. Something that annoyed me, and this is completely irrational, so it doesn't make any sense, so don't even bother, was that I felt that this whole Realm Gate shtick, where basically they turned what was a fantasy game into a space game a la fucking Stargate SG-1 was like, but you could travel through the realm gate and go to any other fucking parallel universe. It's like, oh, fuck off. Fuck right off. For me, that was like, it just killed my interest in the whole thing. And maybe that's years of like fucking being programmed by fantasy genre fiction and fantasy war games where it's like everything's in a clearly defined geography and all the tribes and the factions have interrelationships and it all, we're going to try and add a load of verisimilitude. And Games Workshop just went, yeah, don't think about it too much. Everything's all over the place and you just go through the realm gates and travel. You just travel to the world you want to go to. It's like, oh, fuck off. I'm done. Anyway, I think we've pretty much... We're only 30 minutes short, but I think we're going to call it now. I hope that... I know that's... It's always more difficult with these solo ones without somebody to bounce off and chat with. I know it can be a harder watch for you guys at home, but I hope that was at least somewhat entertaining and thought-provoking, because I'd rather our stuff was thought-provoking than... I'd rather it was as entertaining as it is thought-provoking. I take that back. But, as I say, my feeling is this is not one of those right, wrong opinions. This is one of those spectrum of preference opinions. Where do you sit? Do you like the gaming in the gaps, loose framework of rules that some of the more independent war games give you? Or do you like the games from the big companies? I mean, even bloody Mantic now, the world of is it Pelennor? Panathor, the world of Panathor that Kings of War is set in. It's all getting very... To be fair, I think the lore and history in the Kings of War 2nd edition rulebook, I haven't got the big red third, but the 2nd edition one, I'm assuming they've kept it with the tale of the mirror and the woman who fell in love with the guy, and it's actually quite good. It's actually quite a good story. But even they've started to sort of like create quite a lot of story around their world. It's not empty and hollow. I know, obviously, is that your thing? Is that what you like? You like to read the graphic? You want the novels to be released? You like the story to be as full and rich and filled with characters they'll tell you about? Is that what you prefer? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching if you watched tonight's stream, and thank you very much for watching later if you weren't here tonight. Thank you very much to my unlauded co-hosts, the people in the chat, because they are part of the show as well as I am. Hope everything works out okay with David, if you're still watching. We will be back. Now, there probably won't be a stream tomorrow, next week, because I am on leave from work. And at the moment, you're welcome, Ewok. There probably won't be a stream next week, because I'm on leave from work. And to be honest, I don't know what I'm doing. Me and the missus might go out for a meal, or I might be busy, or I might just want to be taking the week off and vegging and doing sweet Fanny Adams. So we may not be here next week, but then again, the urge may take me and we may stream anyway. Keep your eyes peeled on our Instagram feed or our Facebook feed. And we'll post if there is a stream, it will be posted. If you can only do one thing tonight, please click the like button on the stream. It's only a small thing for you, but it's massive for us. If you want to do any of the other things, share, comment, subscribe, then do whatever enhances and makes your YouTube experience more enjoyable. But I would like to hear on where you sit on the old story and narrative spectrum. Do you like rich and complete, or bare bones and, flexible? Here's another question, right? Here's a parting shot. One for you to sort of like explain that I don't really understand. I've said I don't know is the honest answer at Worlder. I've said, so like, I don't know how I felt about the end of the Red King, but I know that I didn't feel comfortable with this, and the world blows up and it's all gone. But I play the Arkham Horror living card game. Now, those campaigns, most of the campaigns for that card game have very strongly defined characters and very strongly defined narratives in the story of the campaign. And at several points in the campaign, or in most of the campaigns, there can be a moment where all the players are killed, the world is consumed by enter name of great old one here. And yet I don't ever have but now the world's destroyed, I can't play it again. Why is that? Why did I feel that way about my miniatures war game, but I didn't feel that about my Arkham card game? Why is that? I don't really know. Anyway, with that thought, or lack of, we'll see you probably in 2 weeks, but we'll keep it mysterious, so then you won't know.
It's another Thursday night. I see Crispin's wearing tights. Sparrow's getting in the bath. Young David's full of wrath. Paul is tightening his straps. Where on his apron you saps. Technical difficulties. They're really such a crime. Technical difficulties. They happen all the time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop 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 time. Cheese Meat is on day release. Dan still tries not to crease. And Ewoks keeping nice and warm. In bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening up a can. Technical difficulties. They're really such a crime. Technical difficulties. They happen all the time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. Cheese Meat is on day release. Damn Chef tries not to crease. But Ewoks keeping nice and warm. In bed with Russian uniform. Meanwhile, the handyman is opening another can. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. It's Yellowbelly Tabletop time. Cheese Meat is on day release. Damn me up, try with Russian uniform. Meanwhile the handyman is opening another can.